Hello everyone. The purpose of this video will be to give you some basic instructions and guidelines for how to complete the discussion forum assignments. And the place I want to start is that you can see here I'm on the Moodle page for our course. And let's go ahead and go down to the syllabus. And under the assignments section, you'll see that there is a short description of the discussion forum assignment, which I'm going to talk you through right now. So first, we should say a few things about what the purpose of the discussion forum assignment is. Now, because this class is being delivered in an online format, that means the actual instruction, which is taking place in the lecture videos, will be separate from us discussing the philosophical issues together. In a normal class, we'd all be together. You'd be listening to the lecture, we'd be stopping to talk about the issues, but of course we can't do that in this format, so those two things will be occurring separately. And the purpose of the discussion forum assignment is just to give you the opportunity to discuss the issues we'll be talking about with your classmates and also ask questions of me, the instructor. Okay, so there's a few preliminary points we should go over about this assignment. First, where can you find the discussion forums? So if we go back to the Moodle page and go up to the course navigation area, let's just go to week 1. Now, it just so happens that in week 1 of this course, August 24th to the 28th, there are 2 discussion forum assignments you must complete. So if you scroll down in this area, you can see discussion forum 1 is right here, and discussion forum 2 is just below. Okay, so you'll be required to complete both of these assignments in week 1. So one way you know that is if you go to any given area of the course. So right now we're week 1, you can see there are 2 discussion forums. If you go to another week of the course, week 2, you'll see there are 2 more discussion forums 3 and 4. So that's one way. If you just go to any area for that week of the course, you'll see which discussion forums you need to complete. If you want to take a broader overall look and just kind of scan and see when the discussion forums will be happening, then the best way to do that is to go to the syllabus. So here we are at the syllabus. Let's go down to the course schedule. And this will also tell you each week when the discussion forums are due. So in week 1, we have 1 and 2, week 2, 3 and 4, week 3, just discussion forum 5, right? So in general, in any given week, there's either going to be 1 or 2 discussion forums due. Okay, so that's how you know where the forums are and which ones you need to complete. But what do the forums actually require from you? So if we go back up to this short description, you will see that for each discussion forum, you're going to be required to do 2 things. First, make what I'm calling a first post, and that with one exception, that first post will be due in the Wednesday of each week. So you'll see in the description it says, in general, a first post is due by Wednesday, 11:59 Mountain Standard Time. And just to reemphasize, all times, all due dates will be in Mountain for the Mountain Time Zone. I actually personally in the Eastern Time Zone, but to keep it consistent and easy for the majority of people, we will be using the Mountain Time Zone. So your first post is due Wednesday at the end of the day, and then the second post, what I'm calling a response post, is due by the end of each Friday at the end of the day. Okay, so the first question you should ask is, what is the difference between these 2 posts? What are their purposes? So to see that, we should go back to where the forums actually are. So let's take a look at week 1. And let's take a look at discussion forum 1. So when you open this up, you're going to see a couple things. First, some specific instructions for this discussion forum. I'm just going to tell you that you need to do a first post and a response post and give the exact due dates for each. So your first post is due Wednesday, August 26th at the end of the day. And your response post is due Friday, August 28th at the end of the day. Okay, so you'll see those basic instructions. Then when you get into the forum itself, you'll see there are already 2 threads. So let me just say a few things first about the Ask the Professor thread. So this thread is not one that's going to count toward your requirements for this assignment. So you are, of course, welcome to post as much as you want in this thread, but the only posts that actually count toward the requirements for the assignment are the posts you make in in threads that look like this. Ones that say discussion forum 1, question 1. Or other, if you went to discussion forum 3, one would say discussion forum 3, question 2, for instance. So these are the only forums that count towards the assignment. So what is the purpose of the Ask the Professor thread? If you just have some content questions that you think other people would also benefit from, right? So there's something about this specific lesson you're wondering about, you'd like clarification, and you think having your other classmates see that question would also be beneficial for them, then that would be an excellent place to post that question. So you could put it right here, and I will get back to you with an answer as soon as possible. Of course, if you have questions that are more just specific to you, email would be the best way to get a hold of me. But for content questions that others would benefit from, this would be the place, the Ask the Professor thread. Okay, but like I said, that doesn't actually count toward the requirements. So perhaps the more important thread are the ones that look like this. So in discussion forum 1, it says we only have one discussion question. So let's click on this. In all the discussion question threads, what you'll see is some specific prompt or question that you'll be required to respond to. So for the very first discussion forum, there's really not a lot of heavy philosophical lifting. There is one philosophical question here, but basically this question asks you to introduce yourself and your major, where you're from, an interesting fact, and then asks you one philosophical question to sort of get our mental juices flowing. But to meet the requirements for this assignment for discussion forum 1, first you'll need to make a first post, which is a response to this prompt right here. And that first post must be at least 100 words. Right? So not overly long, but I want to make sure it's sufficiently substantive, so it has to be at least 100 words. Then, once you have made a first post, and that's due by the Wednesday of that week, which in this case is August 26th, once you've made that first post, then you will be required to make a response post. And the response post doesn't have a word requirement. I will, again, look for substantive contributions. I'll get to that in a second. But it doesn't have a strict word requirement. But you'll be required to make a reply to either myself or one of your other classmates in this thread. So that's a long way of saying just that for each discussion forum assignment, you need to respond to the prompt and then reply to someone else's response. Okay, so those are the basic requirements. Now, one other thing I should say is that if you look at discussion forum 1, there's only one discussion question. Most discussion forums, not all, but most are actually going to have multiple discussion questions. So let me show you an example of that. Let's go to, I think, week 3 is an example of this, if I remember correctly. So let's go to discussion forum 5. Okay, so this is a good example. So in discussion forum 5, we again have the Ask the Professor thread, so same thing there. But now we have question 1 and we have question 2. So the first thing you should ask is, do I have to respond to both of these questions? And you are certainly allowed to do that, but you are not required to, right? To meet the basic requirements, all you need to do is select one of these discussion questions and make a response to that, and then make a reply to someone else's response in either of them. So for instance, you might say, okay, I'm going to respond to question 1, the prompt here. So you click on that. Here's the prompt for question 1. You read through that, you make a response, and then for your response post, for your second post, you could make a reply in this thread, you can make a reply in the other thread, it doesn't matter, right? But to meet the basic requirements, you only need to respond to one of the questions. Again, you're perfectly allowed to respond to more if you want, but it is not required to meet the basic requirements of the assignment. Okay, so that's sort of the nuts and bolts of how the discussion forums work. We should also say a few things about the grading. So you'll notice from an overall course perspective, the discussion forums are worth 200 points. That's 25% of your total grade. There are 20 in total throughout the whole semester, and each is worth 10 points. So each one isn't worth a ton of points, but again, the purpose is that in a sort of cumulative way, it'll give you a chance throughout the semester to discuss with your classmates. And it's also a way for this to be a more low-stakes assignment where you can experiment with some ideas in a way that maybe you wouldn't in a response paper or the exam, the other sorts of assignments we have in this class. So that of course brings up the question, how will I be grading you? Right? So each one is worth 10 points. So first, just based on completion, right? To get the full 10 points, you have to make the 2 required posts. You have to do them on time, and the first post has to meet the 100-word requirement. Now, and also in order to get the full 10 points, I will be looking that you make a meaningful contribution to the discussion, right? So does your post show that you've read the text? Does it show you've thought carefully about the issue? Does it show you've thought carefully about the post of your classmate that you're responding to? Those are all things I'll be looking for. And as an added bonus, for those individuals who go above and beyond, both and or in terms of the quantity of posts, but more importantly, the quality of their posts, right? So for those whose discussion in the forums is excellent, shows real critical engagement with the issue, shows you're really thinking through the questions we're asking, for those individuals, I would consider some amount of extra credit, right? So that gives you a basic sort of sense of how I will be grading your discussion forums. And so again, there is that incentive if you do above and beyond, if you go above and beyond in terms of quantity and or quality, but more importantly quality, I do consider extra credit. Okay, so that is basically an outline of the discussion forums. I think I will leave it there. As always, if anything I talked about here is confusing to you, if you still have leftover questions, please feel free to contact me through email, and I will certainly get back to you. All right, thanks for listening. I will see you next time.